And welcome back to another awesome Elementor tutorial with me, Ken the Polymath. Just in case it's your first time seeing me or seeing this Elementor series, we are working on the ultimate Elementor tutorial series for complete beginners. And this is geared towards people who are brand new to Elementor and would like to know how to set up their Elementor project from scratch. So last week we saw how to install a WordPress theme and we installed Astra. And before that we saw how to install Elementor. So now that we have Elementor and Astra theme installed, in this tutorial we'll be looking at how to set up a WordPress web page using Astra and Elementor to get the best results. So the goal for today is to see how to create your very first web page and configure it correctly with Astra and Elementor to make the best use of Elementor while you're building it in the front end. So jumping over to my WordPress dashboard, as you can see, this is version 6.0.1. So if you're watching this from the future, this version is probably more advanced, but the process still remains the same unless I communicate otherwise. So the first thing we do is go inside pages. So I'll just click pages. And as you can see here, we have the two default pages, privacy policy and sample page and a draft. But I want to go ahead and say add new. So I'll just add new. And of course, the first thing you want to do is give the page a name. So let's say this is the blog page. So now that we have that, the next thing we want to do is go inside Astra settings. Up here we have the WordPress settings, and we'll get to that in a minute. But let's start with the Astra settings. Remember, we're using the Astra theme. The first thing we want to do here is look at the content layout. So we can have our page as boxed or content boxed, full width contained, or full width stretched. Now I like using full width stretched, and I'll show you very quickly. Let me just jump to the Astra website. I just want to show you how a full width stretched page looks. So if you notice this bluish purple background here, it runs all the way from the right to the left, touching the edges of the screen. And if I scroll downwards, as you can see, the content is almost touching the edge. And that's what we mean by full width stretched. Your content on your web page is stretched like this, and this is how most modern web pages look. But now going back, you might want your content full width but contained. That just means your content will not go this far near the edge. It might start from here. It's full width, but it's not completely stretched all the way to the end. And for now, I'm really zoomed out of my page. It's not at 100%. If I zoom into 100%, as you see right now, this page is full width stretched. I like it as full width stretched, and this is what you will get with your page. So now that you understand that, the next thing we want to do is look at the sidebar. Do you want your page to have a sidebar? And if you've used the internet for some time, you've come across pages that have sidebars. I like mine without a sidebar. And going back to this doesn't have a sidebar, as you can see. But now if I could switch to another example of a web page, this is WP Beginner, one of the best WordPress resources on the internet today. You will notice that there is a sidebar here that's holding extra content. This is the main content of this page. This is a blog post and you can read it. But on the side, we have a sidebar containing links to other important parts of the website. And this is a good spot to provide users with more content that they might be interested in, and that's what enables you to keep people on your website. So this has a right sidebar. So going back inside our sidebar settings, we can choose to have the sidebar on the left, and obviously you know that would mean this sidebar is on this side and the content is on this side, or right sidebar. So as I've said, I like mine without the sidebar. Let me collapse that and that. The next thing we want to do is enable or disable these two elements, the header and the footer. Now, because we already have Elementor installed, we can create our header and footer from scratch. Switching back to this, let me just close down this message here. Now, this here is our header on this web page. It holds the logo and the nav bar and this download logo. Going back to WP Beginner, this is the header. It holds the logo and the nav bar. So Astra has its own header and footer, but because we already have Elementor installed, I prefer using Elementor because it allows us to work on the header and the footer just by dragging and dropping items. So I'll go ahead and disable the header and footer, and we'll be building ours from scratch. So with those settings, we'll switch to the WordPress settings here. And the first thing we want to do is set the template. But before we do that, let me close this panel. The template here is Elementor full width, and these are Elementor settings actually. If we didn't have Elementor installed, we would not see this templates panel. So if I collapse all these panels, all these other panels will be available except the template panel. So expanding that, it's always set to default template, but I like using Elementor full width. And that is what will allow us to have the full canvas from the left to the right to work with in order for this to take effect, the content layout full width stretched. All right, so I hope you understand that. So going back in here, inside the WordPress settings, Elementor settings, now you don't really need to touch this status and visibility. You'll get to understand how to use some of these other parts as you interact with WordPress more. Right now, I'm just showing you the most important parts you need to create and set up your web page to make it ready to use Elementor properly. Going inside the permalink. The permalink is the extension of your page or blog post or any post you create in WordPress. And as you can see, it's set to the name of your page. So if, for example, we switch to WP Beginner here, and if I could just pull down this part, as you can see up here, we have wpbeginner.com/showcase/best business phone services. And as you can see here, we have 6 best business phone services for small businesses. So this is important for SEO. It's always better to have a slug that contains the keywords of your blog post. That's the main message that the owner of this web page wants people to be drawn to. So going back inside our settings right here, if the page's name is courses, you will notice that this changes to courses, and as you can see in the URL, it has also changed to courses. And just in case you want to learn more about how to set up your WordPress website to be super search engine optimized, I actually have a full course on that. It's a 60-minute course on Skillshare. I'll link it in the description below. You can go ahead and check it out and learn how to optimize your WordPress website to be visible to search engines. And joining for the first 30 days is completely free. The success of any website online is proper SEO. So check it out in the link in the description below. First of all, let me collapse the template and the permalink. You can also set a featured image, which is also very important for your SEO. And I also talk about why it's important in the Skillshare class. Discussion, this is to allow comments, but you usually want to enable this for blog posts, not pages. And the truth is, you don't really need to touch these two parts. These are advanced, and 99.9% of the time when you're creating a new web page, you will never need to use these two. So I'll just collapse those two. Let me collapse that as well. Let me expand that. And now that we have our web page configured, we can go ahead and click publish. So I'll hit publish once again. And now we're live. And now we're ready to go ahead and start building the web page from scratch with Elementor. So go ahead and click edit with Elementor. All right, so here we are. Now we can start dragging and dropping elements on the page and populating them with content as we please. So in the next lesson, we'll be looking at how to use every single element provided by Elementor, and we'll be looking at how to use it like a professional to create a web page like this. That's all for now. And just in case you haven't checked it out, I have a huge library of Elementor classes on Skillshare. I'll link it in the description below. You can go ahead and check out how to build fully working web pages, websites, landing pages, and much more. And the best part is that joining my classes or any other classes on Skillshare is free for the first 30 days. What can you do in 30 days? A lot. So as always, it's always a pleasure to have you here. My name is Ken the Polymath, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Peace.